What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Sean O'Malley predicts Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira could set the MMA world on fire right around the corner, and recently Sean O'Malley weighed in on who he thinks will win. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. Now that Ankakaev has moved up to welterweight, Topuria and Oliveira will scrap for the vacant lightweight title in the headliner of UFC 317 on June 28th. While most fans and their dogs were hoping to see Topuria and Ankakaev battle, a fight between El Matador and Do Bronx is still a must-see. During a recent episode of the Full Send podcast, Sugar Sean O'Malley conceded that he was hoping to see Ankakaev versus Topuria, but he also weighed in on the UFC 317 headliner.
I wanted to see Topuria versus Islam.
I know.
Those were the
we all did.
Those are the two #1 pound-for-pound guys in the world. In my opinion, Topuria, Islam, both tied at #1. Obviously, John Jones up there too, but that was the fight to make. But they both wanted to move up. So Ilia versus Charles. Heart says Charles, my brain says Ilia, but you can't count either of those guys out, especially Ilia coming off those two crazy knockouts over Max and Alexander.
What do you make of O'Malley's prediction? Do you think Topuria will add another UFC title to his resume? And speaking of UFC 317, recently the poster for the card was released. What do you think of it? Do Bronx had this to say after the poster was shared out. Gold. Of course, it remains to be seen if Topuria will win the title, but recently, John Jones spoke with Vic Blends, and the heavyweight champion was asked about the rise of Topuria. Here's what Bones had to say.
I say time will tell. One thing that I know from experience, just being in the sport for so long, that it's difficult to win the belt. It's more difficult to live the lifestyle of a UFC champion and continue being a UFC champion. The fame and the press and the money and the girls and the alcohol and all of it, it doubles down on you. And very few people can handle it. So yeah. I actually do wish Elias all the support in the world. I know he has a great family, a great management team, and a great fight team and great friends.
He's a savage, bro.
I think he's
Islam's savage, bro.
I think he's gonna do the right things. But we'll see. It's always gonna be a matter of time when it comes to people that have become champion. It's a very hard thing to maintain.
If anyone knows what it's like to become a combat sports star and then find themselves in heaps of trouble, it's certainly Jones, although he has managed to stay at the top of the game. What do you make of Jones's comments here? Dricus du Plessis sends a warning to Khamzat Chimaev. Heading into UFC 319, the consensus is that Dricus du Plessis will have a very hard time leaving Chicago with the middleweight title still wrapped around his waist. But recently, the champ issued a warning to the man he will face, Khamzat Chimaev. Although du Plessis has been very impressive during his UFC run and has proven doubters wrong more than once, he is the underdog in the betting lines against Chimaev. Because not only has Chimaev gone undefeated to date, he's destroyed much of the opposition he's faced. But recently, DDP issued the following warning to boors. You have no idea what I'm willing to do to be the greatest, but soon you'll find out. It's also worth noting that not everyone believes that Khamzat is going to hear and new on August 16th. Recently, Sean Strickland outlined to Helen Yee how he thinks DDP can remain on the middleweight throne. Here's some of what Strickland had to say. So I just don't know if Dricus can be able to counter-wrestle him. But if he can, I think he wins, hands down. I sparred the Chechen. Hands down, I think Dricus wins. It's just going to come down to, are you going to be able to stop that and counter-wrestle him? You can. It's not hard. And speaking of wrestling, the following video of Khamzat wrestling with Olympic champion Abdulrashid Sadulaev is making the rounds. Not too shabby when it comes to grappling. Do you think DDP can hand Chimaev his first defeat? UFC fight updates. Let's take a look at some updates regarding UFC fights. Unfortunately, UFC Vegas 107 today will no longer feature Trevin Giles and Andreas Gustafsson throwing down. On Friday, it was reported that Giles has withdrawn from the bout. According to Gustafsson, Giles fainted while cutting weight and hit his head.
Yes, as you all have already heard, the fight is off. My opponent pulled out this morning. Apparently he fell during the weight cut and hit his head. It sucks. I'm ready. I'm on weight. I have prepared for this, and yeah, of course it sucks really bad, but we have faith. We hope they can find a replacement soon. So stay tuned for any updates.
This is not the first time Giles has had to drop out of a fight due to fainting. As Real Kevin K recently noted, back in 2020, Giles fainted ahead of a fight with Kevin Holland. It's an unfortunate incident for both welterweights. Hopefully, Giles has a speedy recovery. For Gustafsson, this is the third fight cancellation that he's had now, since he was awarded a UFC deal on Dana White's Contender Series. And speaking of welterweights, recently it was announced that veteran contender Stephen Thompson will take on Gabriel Bonfim at the UFC July 12th card in Nashville. Following the fight's announcement, Wonderboy posted this reaction. Time to prove this old man still got it. Yep, if you need a reminder, Wonderboy is now 42 years old, while Bonfim is 27. So there is a bit of a discrepancy here in terms of age. Thompson will be looking to get back on track after dropping consecutive fights to Joaquin Buckley and Shavkat Rakhmonov. On the other side, Bonfim is coming off wins over Chaos Williams and Angalusa, and has only lost once in 18 pro fights. Nolan King recently reported that featherweights Jose Delgado and Haider Emil will battle at UFC 317 on June 28th. Delgado finished Connor Matthews in his last outing this past February and has won 6 straight. Emil recorded a split decision over William Gomez in his last fight, which took place in March, and moved his record to a perfect 11-0. MMA Fighting is reporting that UFC 318 on July 19th has picked up an intriguing lightweight contest between veteran Michael Johnson and Daniel Zeluber. Johnson put away Othman Azatar in his last bout in December and is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Zeluber dropped a split decision to Esteban Ribovics in his last fight, which took place in September. The lightweight is also 3-2 in his last 5 battles. Michael Chandler responds to teammates' comments. Michael Chandler has emerged and started talking with the media following his decisive stoppage loss to Paddy Pimblett in April. Not only that, he's addressed comments that his teammate Jared Gordon made about his training camp after the baddie battered Chandler at UFC 314. Following Chandler's third-round stoppage loss to Pimblett, Gordon reported in an interview that he was not surprised by the fight. More specifically, Gordon revealed he had concerns about Chandler based on how and who he was training with. Well, more recently, Chandler spoke with MMA Junkie. When asked about Gordon's comments, the former Bellator champ revealed he may have returned to the cage too early after undergoing knee surgery. The decision to take the fight pretty early on was my decision alone. The UFC gives you the option. My wife can advise me, my mentors can advise me, my management can advise me, but that decision rests solely on my shoulders and how I felt, and why I thought taking a fight that quick made a lot of sense. Iron Mike continued, obviously I was coming off a knee injury that needed to get some rehab on and some physical therapy and all that stuff. It started feeling better, and I'm the kind of guy where I'd rather just go than sit around and wait, you know. Maybe that was the wrong decision, but I was moving around well in a training camp. It wasn't a perfect training camp, that's for dang sure, but I went out there and I took an L. No big deal, you know, that's what we do. What do you think of Chandler's comments here? Do you think he's just offering up excuses or being sincere? Israel Adesanya predicts Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankakaev. As this video is being produced, it's not clear if and when Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankakaev will run things back. But if they do, Israel Adesanya is confident his former foe can reclaim the light heavyweight title. Pereira's reign as the light heavyweight champion came to an end in March at the hands of Ankakaev, who recorded a decision win over the feared striker. Because the fight was close, and because Poatan defended the belt 3 times, the consensus is that the promotion will book a rematch between these two. Well, recently, Adesanya sat down with Sean O'Malley, and the subject of Ankakaev versus Pereira 2 came up. The last stylebender proceeded to say the following about the man who defeated him 3 times and his expected rematch with Ankakaev.
Well, honestly, like, I'm so proud of the guy as well, what he's done. Like, cause it's like, I created a monster. He showed why he is who he is across 2 weight classes. And man, I can't wait to see the next fight with him and Ankakaev again. I think it'll be another hard one, but I think he can get it done. Because it wasn't a complete, washout on that fight. So I think
impressed me with his takedown defense.
Yeah, he's exponentially getting better as well.
There's no question that Pereira has proven his doubters and critics wrong multiple times at this point. Of course, when you're one of the hardest punchers this earth has ever known, you can win any fight. If you need a refresher on how hard Pereira does punch, check this out. UFC fighter fires back at steroid allegations. As Kayla Harrison continues to prepare for a showdown with Juliana Pena at UFC 316, the decorated judoka is having to fire back at steroid allegations. Harrison will take on Pena in a co-headliner of the June 7th card next weekend, in what will be the former PFL tourney winner's third UFC fight. Recently, Pena has accused Harrison of using steroids, even though the Olympic gold medalist has never tested positive for PEDs. Well, more recently, Harrison's coach, Mike Brown, was asked to respond to the allegations while talking with MMA Fighting. Here was some of what he had to say after acknowledging Harrison as a, quote, freak among freaks. People just think because they look at themselves and how they're built and how they were brought up, that's not the top of the food chain. There are people out there that are not normal, just like in basketball. There are athletes that are 7'6", 7'7". There are athletes that are unbelievably muscular or athletes that have unbelievable conditioning that seems unworldly. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean somebody else can't. And Brown's comments prompted Harrison to respond with this: I'm just a freak. But what do you make of Pena's allegations? And do you think she truly believes Harrison's on roids? Or could she just be playing mind games ahead of their fight?
Can you tell the people when you're fighting next, or no, you can't announce that yet?
So they offered me to fight one of my friends.
Okay.
And I think we both kind of collectively said no.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, it'd be one thing if he just like was a, you know, a douchebag, but like he has a wife, a kid, like, you know, you want to talk about the men you respect. He's somebody I respect as a man. So it's like, not telling Mitch, like at a press conference, what do you want me to say? Hey, you dirty Brazilian, man, like sees your family's doing well. Like, am I invited to the birthday party? So
Wait, is it Alex?
No, it was Kyle. Those fights are just hard, dude, because you're like, I mean, like, you got a wife, you got a kid, who I personally know, who I like.
Kyle's a cool guy.
He's such a cool guy.
He really is.
Like,
he shows a lot of love to me a lot, so super nice, super genuine.
yeah, bro, he's a really nice guy. So it's one of those things where it's like, do I really want?
So when you fight your next fight, it's gotta be someone you really don't respect.
Not even that, bro. It's more of like, I just don't want to be. Like, it could be anyone. It could be RDR. It could be Whitaker. It could be anybody. I just don't want to.
Dana White receives major backlash. Recently, someone apparently discovered that the profiles of power slap fighters are being included in the UFC's online roster. Not surprisingly, it wasn't long before hardcore MMA fans were letting Dana White have it. And before we continue, we have a favor to ask. Help us reach 200,000 subscribers on MMA Zone by subscribing and turning on notifications for daily MMA content. Seriously, we rarely miss a day. Ever since White announced his power slap venture, a lot of fans have let it be known they don't consider it a legitimate sport. Further, some fans have taken issue with the UFC frequently shoving power slap promos down their throats. So when it was reported that power slap fighters are now in the UFC fighter base, some fans let loose. Haha, this is so low rent, everyone needs to admit the UFC is peak and the slope down are in the rear view. This is a late stage capitalistic money printer now. Every tweak or change will solely be to generate more money. I'm not happy about it, but it's sadly true. The sport is bleeding out, and it's like Dana thinks power slap is going to legitimize the show that he has turned the UFC into post 2023. We want John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Like this is exactly why I only watch Russian and Japanese MMA anymore. Dana just won't let it, huh? What a slap in the face to MMA. So lame. One observer, however, provided this context as to why the UFC may have done this. Potential reason for this. I understand this from a programmatic perspective, as it would be significantly cheaper and easier to maintain power slap fighter profiles on their already established and well-structured website for the UFC. But what do you make of all this, and the reason it could be happening?